He said, I do about 60% of the chores at home. She said the same thing, 60%. Together, 120. That's not a math error. That's the exact reason most couples argue about household work and can never seem to resolve it. Today, we're going to look at why that happens and do something simple right here in this video without any apps or sign-ups. Just an honest look at your own situation and if your partner is around with them. Hello. If the last video brought you here, you'll remember what I promised. The next checkup would be about who actually carries more of the household load. Here it is. Before we get into it, I want to ask you one question. Please don't rush past it. Have you ever had the experience of carrying the house in your head? Not physically, mentally. You remember that the car insurance needs renewing before the end of the month. You notice the shampoo is almost out before it's completely gone. You keep track of the fact that your partner has a dentist appointment they've already forgotten about. You're mentally planning the dinner, the groceries, who's coming over, what gift to get for the birthday next week. And here's what that Saturday morning looks like. You wake up, and before you fully opened your eyes, three things are already running in your head. You need to RSVP to the wedding by Sunday. You need to chase the landlord about the boiler. You need to remember to pick up the dry cleaning before they close. Your partner wakes up next to you, reaches for their phone, scrolls the news, eventually gets up, makes coffee, which is genuinely helpful. But those three things in your head, they stayed in your head because they weren't in your partner's head to begin with, not because they don't care, because they simply didn't know. That's the part that's so hard to explain. And here's the honest answer to what's actually happening. One person in the relationship is operating as a household manager, seeing everything, tracking everything, planning everything. The other is operating as an implementer, masmar doing specific tasks when they come up. The implementer can do a lot, often a tremendous amount physically, but the mental management, the planning, the remembering, the tracking stays with the manager. There's a phrase the implementers of the world tend to say very often, and it's said with genuine goodwill. Just tell me what needs to be done and I'll do it. It sounds like willingness, but inside that sentence is a structural problem. If one partner has to first notice, then remember, then formulate, then communicate the task, and only then does the other person act, that's not partnership, that's project management. One person is the project manager, the other is the team. The project manager burns out, not from any single task, but from the fact that they can never actually clock off. You can't choose to stop noticing things. Meanwhile, the implementer genuinely doesn't understand why their partner is exhausted when they worked just as hard over the weekend, because the implementer sees the actions. The manager is also carrying everything that comes before the actions. Now let's talk about the science, because this isn't just a feeling. In 2019, Harvard sociologist Allison Daminger published research in the American Sociological Review examining how couples actually divide household labor. She found that any household task has four cognitive layers: anticipate, notice that something needs to happen before it becomes urgent; identify, figure out specifically what needs to be done and how; decide, choose and initiate the action; monitor, follow through to make sure it's completed. The physical task, doing the grocery run, loading the dishwasher, taking out the trash, that's the third and fourth layer. The first and second layers, the anticipating and identifying, are invisible, and in most couples, they land almost entirely on one person. This is what researchers call cognitive labor, and it's the part that doesn't show up when you count who did the dishes. The Bureau of Labor Statistics Time Use Survey data from 2023 and 2024 shows that women still spend roughly 50% more time than men on household tasks and childcare, even when both partners work full time. And the gender gap is widest precisely in this cognitive invisible component. But here's what I want to be clear about, and this matters. This is not only a gendered problem. The manager slash implementer pattern shows up in all kinds of couples. Who ends up as the manager isn't predetermined. It's usually a set of habits that formed in the first few months of living together, habits that were never discussed, never agreed on, just happened. Now, the math. When you ask each partner separately what percentage of household tasks they handle, the numbers almost never add up to 100. They typically add up to 120, sometimes 130. This is called the self serving attribution bias. Each person remembers their own effort better than they remember their partner's. It's not dishonesty, it's how memory works. But it's exactly why you never do anything around here. Conversations go nowhere. Both people are telling the truth about their own experience. Both pictures are incomplete. And this isn't trivial. A 2025 study in the Psychology of Women Quarterly found that performing a greater share of household labor is consistently associated with lower relationship satisfaction, not occasionally, consistently. Which means the question of who does more around the house isn't just a fairness question, it's a question about how good things actually feel between you. The first thing I want to suggest you do right now in this video: pick up your phone, open your notes app, write down three things you do regularly at home that your partner probably doesn't notice. Not the obvious ones, the invisible ones. You noticed the toilet paper was running low 3 days before it actually ran out. You remembered to send a thank you message on behalf of both of you. You kept track of when the fridge filter needs replacing. You've been mentally carrying that thing about the neighbor's parking for 2 weeks. Three things. Write them while I keep talking. Done? Now, if your partner is in the room with you right now, ask them to do the same thing. Each of you writes your own list, separately. Then read them out loud to each other. No commentary. No, I can't believe you think that counts. Just listen. You cannot value what you cannot see. That list makes the invisible visible. Sometimes that's the whole thing. Now, three questions. Answer for yourself, not for me. Question 1. What percentage of the household responsibilities, in your own honest estimate, do you handle? Not the answer you'd like to hear from your partner. Your first genuine number: 50, 60, 70, whatever came to mind first. Hold it. Question 2. Who in your relationship is usually the first to notice that something needs to be done before it becomes urgent? Not who does it, who notices it first. If the answer is me, that doesn't mean your partner is lazy. It might mean you have different thresholds for noticing. One of you is running Daminger's first and second layers, the other is handling the third and fourth. Both are working, but they're seeing different things. Question 3. Is there a household task that drains you, not physically but mentally? Not because it's difficult, but because it's always on you. Because you can't afford to forget about it. Because if you don't hold it, nobody will. If yes, hold that specific thing in mind when you read your partner's list. Before we go further, write a number in the comments. What percentage of the household responsibilities do you think you handle? Just the number, no explanation needed. When you've done the checkup with your partner, come back and write the total. I'll personally reply to everyone whose sum comes out above 100. Back to our couple with 120% from the beginning. Here's what struck me most about their story. Both of them were completely sincere. Nobody was exaggerating. Each genuinely saw their own contribution as larger, because we remember our own invisible work far better than we remember theirs. When they wrote their lists and read them aloud, something unexpected happened. Not a fight, a pause, because each of them saw for the first time what the other had been quietly carrying. Not "you never do anything," but "I didn't realize you've been tracking that. I didn't know that was on you." If your partner is with you right now, press pause on this video. Read them your three things. Ask them to read theirs. No judgment, just information. This takes 3 minutes. And sometimes 3 minutes of that conversation does more for how you feel about each other at home than 3 years of trying to keep score. If they are not here, save the list and show them tonight. I wrote a few things down. Can I show you? No accusation in that sentence, just information. I want to address three thoughts that might be in your head right now. What if my partner's list is longer than mine? Then you both have information you didn't have before. With concrete lists in front of you, the conversation shifts from you never do anything to let's look at what each of us isn't seeing in what the other does. Those are completely different conversations. What if we both wrote more than 50%? That's the classic result. That's the attribution bias at work. Neither of you is lying. You each just see your own contributions more clearly than you see each other's. The list is the way to show each other what's otherwise invisible. What if my partner doesn't want to engage with this? Then you've already learned something important, not about chores, but about how your relationship currently handles conversations about difficult topics. That's information too, and it's worth more than a clean kitchen. Now, the other side of this. I want to offer something that almost never comes up in conversations about household load. While you're holding your three invisible things in mind, I want you to think of one invisible thing your partner does. Not something you appreciate in general, something specific, something they do quietly, regularly, without being asked, and that you've probably never said out loud that you notice. Researcher Sarah Algo at the University of North Carolina studied what happens in couples when partners express gratitude to each other. The finding: when one partner expressed gratitude, both partners reported a greater sense of connection and relationship satisfaction the next day. Not just the one who received it, both of them. That means this conversation about household load isn't only about fairness, it's also about whether you see each other. So, the last thing I want to suggest today is to add a fourth item to your notes. One thing your partner does that you see and value that you've never actually said to them out loud. Not as a trade, not as, well, I do the mental load, but you do this, so it evens out. Just as an honest observation. Because balance at home doesn't start with a chore chart. It starts with both people feeling like they're actually seen. Daminger's research found one more thing. Couples where both partners understood each other's cognitive load didn't necessarily split it evenly, but they experienced less resentment because visibility is already half of recognition. If you want to compare your answers in a private format where each of you responds separately and neither can see the other's answers until you're both done, the link is below this video. Everything's automatic there. But honestly, नीचे काम करता हूँ. You've already done the most important part. Three things in your notes app. That's the beginning. If the idea resonates with you that an honest conversation about home can start with three lines in your phone instead of a fight, subscribe. The next checkup is about something that damages relationships not during a fight, but in the first few minutes after one ends. Most couples do the same thing in that moment and have no idea. See you next week and in the comments.